Man, I still think of winning that third belt. I really do think it's attainable. I think anybody is crazy to count me out. Yeah, I hate the persona, hate the courage, but dude, facts are facts, man. I'm an accomplished athlete. If you guys can name somebody who has accomplished more than me in combat sports, dude, I will bend the knee, but there isn't. He's right here. So I believe that, yeah, I am entitled to skip the whole damn line and fight Volkanovski this, because you know why? I deserved it. There's only one guy that could do it, and that's me. I believe I could beat him. Give me the opportunity, and I promise you, that overgrown midget, Alexander the Average, will bend the knee to King Triple C, period.
You saw him, RC. That's King Triple C, Henry Cejudo, announcing that he's coming back, and he had a lot to say about it. But before we get to that, later in the show, you and I are going to rank again the top 5 submission artists of all time in mixed martial arts in the UFC. Sorry, because I had to kind of limit it so that I don't smash you too bad.
Man, listen.
So we're going to limit it to the UFC's top 5 submission artists.
I appreciate it.
And also, Ryan, we have to talk about unwritten rules in sports.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are just certain things you don't do. And Harbaugh did one of those things the other day. We'll discuss that later, but first, big news coming out of Arizona. Henry Cejudo's back. And Ryan, you can call him cringe. People can call him anything. But the one thing you're going to have to call Henry Cejudo every single time you address him is a champion in every single thing that he does. And now that he's back, does that make you excited, or is it a bit of indifference towards Henry Cejudo?
It's absolutely not indifference. It's excitement. And I think he's right when he said, you know what, he should be a dude that gets to fight for the belt. When you look at Volk and what he's done, beating Brian Ortega, beating Max Holloway twice, no matter how you feel about it and the respect that he has, he's a true champion. But so is Henry Cejudo. Listen, Demetrius Johnson was one of the most dominant champions we'd ever seen in the UFC. I mean, this dude was almost like perfection. And for Henry Cejudo to lose to him and then come back and win, and then when you watch a guy like a TJ Dillashaw, who Henry Cejudo beat, come back and immediately get a top contender fight, and many of us are expecting that when everything pans out with the belt, he'll get an opportunity to fight for the championship. So a dude that's accomplished everything that Henry has, a dude that actually draws eyeballs to the screen, a dude who also, when he speaks or when he tweets, we pay attention. Absolutely, he should get an opportunity to step into the octagon and win a championship and fight for a belt. And I think if you're Dana White, you put him in there immediately because you don't want something to happen. Listen, this is MMA. This is the UFC. You don't just take breaks and come back and can guarantee that you'll be exactly the same. So why waste a fight in a contender fight? Why put him in a situation where he might lose? Fast track him to Volk. He's been talking trash. He's been showing that he wants to get in there and do battle, and I'm sure Volk will not turn it down.
Well, the thing about Henry is this, and I've long stopped guessing or voting against Cejudo. I've known the kid since he was a young boy at the Olympic Training Center. He left high school, RC, to move into the OTC because he was viewed as a kid that could potentially make an Olympic team. He made it at a young age. He was the youngest Olympic champion of all time. He would wrestle in his high school matches, RC, but he would train with the U.S. team. So he would just wrestle with us and then go to a high school.
That's cheating.
No, but
that's cheating.
It's not cheating.
That's cheating, DC.
It's so special. Hey, Ryan, do you think his coach had any issues with bringing in the ringer? It's like bringing the ringer, bringing Cejudo. Yeah, so Henry would go wrestle those matches with those kids. It was never competitive, but he kept winning and winning and winning. And then the year before the Olympics, Henry got last in the World Championships. Fast forward 12 months, dude's Olympic champion.
Mm-hmm.
Gets wiped out by Demetrius Johnson in the first fight. Fight lasted a minute. Give him a couple years, he beats Demetrius in Los Angeles. You can't guess against him. TJ Dillashaw, supposed to be the big, bad, scary bantamweight.
Quick.
He's going to be the first to go down a weight class and win 2 titles. Henry knocks him out in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
There is no betting against Henry Cejudo because when somebody's a winner, they find ways. He's extremely hardworking. He's as committed as anybody. Now, I know sometimes the persona can be a bit much. The cringe can be a bit much.
I love the fact that he admits that.
Yeah, he does.
That he hate the cringe.
He does. But the reality is he had to find a way for people to pay attention, and they do now. And at him coming back at 145, I know it seems like a huge mountain to climb against Volkanovski, but like I said, I'm done picking against Henry Cejudo.
Well, here's the thing, though. You keep saying you're done picking against Henry Cejudo. Don't we also have to get to a point where we're done picking against Alexander Volkanovski? I mean, isn't that a conversation that we recently had? And so when you look at this fight,
I'm not saying.
No, I'm asking about
saying
that he's question,
I'm not saying, but wait, wait up, RC, wait a minute, because you're doing it again.
Why are you getting scared?
I see what you're doing. No, because I see what you do. Hey, RC, I told you in that powder blue suit, you look like my pastor. But
well,
you don't look like my pastor right there. You starting to act like a scumbag attorney right now, trying to turn Volkanovski against me. That's what you're trying to do. I'm not saying I'm picking him to win. I'm just saying it's time that we got to really pay attention to Henry. So go on with your question, my friend.
No, I absolutely believe you have to pay attention to Henry, but we also know that Volk is a true champion. And so if this fight is made, how do you see it playing out with Henry Cejudo having that long layoff, but being a champion and now facing a dude that's on a 20-fight win streak and really one of the top champions we've had in the UFC in recent history?
You know what, RC? The crazy thing about Alexander Volkanovski is if it was today and I had to choose who would win, I would pick Volkanovski. I just saw it, right? The memory of what he can do in the octagon is much more fresh for me right now. Granted, I'm not saying Henry doesn't have a chance. I think only idiots would choose to say that Henry doesn't have a chance. But Volkanovski's a big guy. At a point, Alexander weighed over 200 pounds. Right. Henry's never weighed more than 165 pounds. Even at his heaviest, Cejudo weighs about 165 at the most.
Right.
It's a difference in size, and I think this would be one of the challenges that may prove to be the most difficult for Henry Cejudo, who is my friend, who actually, Ryan, is going to be in Gilroy this weekend at a wrestling competition we're having between the school that he coaches and the school that I coach in my academy. So I'm going to see Henry this weekend, and hopefully we can get into it a little bit and kind of try to get the thinking behind this, right? Because to be a three-division champion, I mean, everybody thought Conor was going to be the one that pursued this first. Now it seems like Henry's going to be the first person to try to attempt to do something that honestly seems impossible.
I think you make a great point when you talk about the things that Henry has actually overcome, whether it was being beat by Demetrius Johnson or finishing last at Worlds the year before you become the Olympic champion. And I would just be excited for this fight because anytime I think about champions versus champions and the type of mental toughness you have to have, the aggression, the way you have to be able to fight through adversities, these are two dudes that have done that and done that at the highest level in the biggest market possible for fighters in the UFC. Also, though, when you think of this, how would this muddy the waters in that division? If you do get a Henry Cejudo, Alexander Volkanovski fight, now what does this mean for Max Holloway, Yair Rodriguez? Is that a fight that's setting up for a contender? Or is Max Holloway actually taking a fight that pushes him further down the list or further back from getting another opportunity to fight for the belt?
This is worst case scenario for those guys. Hearing this about Cejudo, Ryan, is absolute worst case for Max Holloway and Yair Rodriguez. Because Max Holloway feels like the guy that can be fighting for the title right now. Volkanovski said it himself. He said, I'll fight him right now if I need to. I don't really care. But when you see a guy coming up from another weight class, and it's a storyline, because ultimately, a lot of things boil down to the story. And now it's a story of a guy trying to be a three-division champion. It piques the interest, especially when we've already seen Max fight Volkanovski twice.
Yep.
Right? So it's like, well, we get something fresh. And then you also cannot run the risk of fighting Cejudo at 145 against anybody else but the champion because he is smaller. He might get beat because he is smaller. But if it's me, I'm still going Holloway if he gets past Yair Rodriguez. Because if you take Holloway and he looks impressive and you don't give him that title shot, then it just does not feel right. It doesn't feel right. But would I be upset with either of them fighting for the belt? Not necessarily. You know, it's fun because this is a weight class that for very recently has become very interesting and exciting, and having a Henry Cejudo in there only furthers that. So championship fights with fighters of that caliber are truly, truly special. And for a long time, 145, 155 have been known as the deepest weight class in the UFC. We see at 145, there's a little bit of confusion in regards to who's going to be fighting for the belt.
Exactly.
One weight class, there is no more confusion, is at lightweight.
Hell
because
yeah.
Dustin Poirier from Louisiana just confirmed yesterday, signed, sealed, and delivered. You know what that means, RC? That means that pen has been put to paper, and Poirier has signed the bout agreement to face Charles Oliveira for the championship, December 11th, exclusively on ESPN Plus and ESPN pay-per-view. How exciting is that, RC?
I mean, I think when I look at it, I think back to our first show when it's Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor, and me watching that fight or leading up to the fight thinking that Dustin Poirier is the best 155-pounder in the world. But then we have Charles Oliveira, who I think has one of the greatest UFC stories ever. This is a guy who was almost out of fighting, right? Almost out of UFC, losing on a streak where he couldn't win it. Now he's fought his way all the way back and is actually getting pounded in the first round by Michael Chandler and lands a quick left and ends up putting him out in the second round. And so when I see him walking in front of the stage at the weigh-in that week in Vegas, I was like, oh, this dude is different, right? His chest was out. You know what I mean? His shoulders were back. You could tell he felt like he was the champ. I think this is the opportunity for him to truly prove it. When you look at Dustin Poirier and the type of people that he's run through in that division, where he was going into the Khabib Nurmagomedov fight and then losing that, and now coming away from that, beating Conor McGregor twice, showing that he is a dude that has actually reinvented himself and now is a new version of himself coming into this fight against Charles Oliveira. I think this is an amazing thing for the UFC, but I also think this is huge for the weight division that Dustin Poirier didn't chase money this time. And not saying that that's wrong, right? Obviously fighting Conor McGregor, that's the bigger billing. That's the opportunity to make money, but he didn't go look for a fight against a Diaz brother. He didn't go try to fight a Jorge Masvidal, something that would have this huge buildup and all this excitement that would give him more money. Nah, he's chasing the belt. He's now finally going to get something he had as an interim champ. He's now finally trying to hold it by himself. And I'm excited to see the Louisiana boy get this opportunity. And I think the world truly wants to know who is the best 155-pounder in the world. And we find that out when these two fight on December 11th.
It's two things, RC. It's two things, my brother. One, Dustin Poirier got a new contract yesterday, too. And you saw Conor McGregor's pay-per-view numbers in Abu Dhabi, 1.5 million. Conor McGregor, in that one fight with Dustin, sold both of me and Jones's fights combined. That one number was me and Jones combined. That was probably the two biggest numbers that Jones and I had over the course of our whole career. And they did that in one fight. So maybe Dustin Poirier now got paid so much, he's going to have his 25,000 square feet in the heart of Louisiana.
Whatever,
like my man
bro.
Ryan Clark.
Oh, my
gosh.
gosh.
Maybe Dustin can finally afford his 25,000 square foot mansion in the heart of Louisiana like my boy Ryan Clark. But it's also this, RC, is this, when you said Charles is different, is this when, RC, when you see a Charles Oliveira for years and he's high champion from a distance, right? High champion. But then in Vegas, when you see us, and is this one, Ryan, when they walk up to you with the hand up and they shake you, give you the hug, there's no more fan, like I'm a fan of this guy. It's I'm on the level of this guy.
Mm-hmm.
He just like me. Is that hand, is the shake hand, come together, bring the shoulder. Champions, that's a guy that carries himself with confidence when he goes from staying high from a distance to coming into you, embracing you, and viewing you and matching you on the level of the confidence. And that's one thing that has allowed for Charles Oliveira to get to where he is today. Hey, nobody has finished more people. Nobody submitted more people in the UFC history than Charles Oliveira. And Dustin Poirier is going to have his hands full with the Brazilian. Now, I understand Dustin has looked phenomenal lately, but Dustin hasn't fought anybody like Do Bronx. Do Bronx is different right now, and he feels and believes that he's the absolute man at lightweight. And I'm telling you, RC, we felt it and we saw it in the confidence, because when he walked past us and he did that, we both looked at each other.
Yeah,
like,
I said, oh. Yeah, I said, oh. And I love that about him, because when you look at his story and where he's come from, that confidence has been earned. right? This isn't a situation to where the UFC built him up as a champion. He had to go through a monstrous tour of fighting good fighter after good fighter until getting his shot against Michael Chandler to win the championship. And so when you look at this division, it's really starting to shape up that once we get the Dustin Poirier, Charles Oliveira winner, they're going to have a division that is coming after them with great fighter after great fighter really throughout the top 10. But one of those fighters is Islam Makhachev. And we all know how you feel about him. You know, he's the most exciting fighter that's ever lived to you, DC. And everything that he does is just so exhilarating. I mean, you feel like it's almost like you drink an energy drink every time he steps into the octagon. It changes your whole mood. You run into the octagon as fast as you ran out of the octagon after the Kevin Holland fight when you didn't know who to interview. And so Islam Makhachev, right, was looking for an opponent. Here, man. My bad, he's looking for an opponent. No RDA. And Dan Hooker, who just fought on the 25th of September, steps up and takes this fight. I mean, he has to feel like this is an opportunity to regain what he lost after getting knocked out to Michael Chandler. So for you, getting to see the most interesting, exciting, exhilarating fighter that you've ever gotten to see since Khabib Nurmagomedov, how do you think this shakes out? And what do you think about Hooker stepping up and taking it?
Why are you doing that? Like I said, why are you doing that?
What?
I never said he was the most exhilarating, exciting fighter of all time. How many superlatives can you put on top of who Islam is to try to play me, dog? Like, no, you went deep in the dictionary.
DC.
You done gave him 10 different ones. That's crazy.
DC, do you remember? So crazy. No, remember that show you said that Islam Makhachev was more exciting to watch than Anderson Silva ever was? Remember you said that?
I never said that.
You said,
I never said that.
You didn't say that?
Hell no. That is, bro, you got some real crazy history going in your head right now.
I don't know, man. I thought you said that.
Hey, dog, you're out of control. And also, hey, look like the Wi-Fi just kicked in on the Contender Series because my stuff came in clear all of a sudden. I can see you, dog. At first, I couldn't even see the letters on the bottom of the screen. Now I can see what's happening in terms of the show. But as we get to Hooker and Islam, I saw Dan Hooker on Saturday at the fight because one of their friends fought. Mm-hmm. And I went up to him after I interviewed somebody and I said, hey, man, you're the man. Gave him 5, gave him daps for taking the fight against Islam because a lot of people talk and they get mad about how we build Islam Makhachev.
Right.
Dan Hooker's willing to step up and challenge that, which is crazy because most people ain't willing to do that. Now, for Dan Hooker, he finds himself in a situation where this may be a #1 contenders fight, right? Because people are ready to call Islam the man, ready to give him a title shot. People are ready to put him in the fight, fighting for the belt. Hey, Dustin Poirier the other day publicly stated Islam may be the toughest fight in the division for him. So he's getting crowned. Mm-hmm. He's as uncrowned as they come. Dan Hooker goes, wait a minute, let me get the shine. If you guys all feel so strongly about this cat, what if I beat him? Why can't Dan Hooker be looked like in that same regard? Now, that's one of the things, right? Ain't nothing worth having, no reward, if you ain't willing to risk something. And Dan Hooker is willing to take the risk. Now, is it a great matchup for him stylistically? Seems very difficult. But he's a man, he's a fighter, and he's going to go out there and try to beat Islam. It's going to be tough, but dude's doing it.
Yeah, to me, and obviously there's no win-win situations, right? Either you get your hand raised after the fight or you don't. But if you're a guy like Dan Hooker who stood across from Michael Chandler with an opportunity to be the #1 contender or at least get a shot at the belt fighting against Charles Oliveira and you lose, and now you have an impressive showing and you get an opportunity against a guy like Islam who you are hearing all of these things about. I think he'll come into this fight as an underdog. This is a situation where he could show on short notice in the fight that he wasn't scheduled to take after just finishing a fight that he could show, you know what, I'm a different dude, not just as a fighter, but as a person, as a man that stepped up and probably taken a fight that many top 5 guys that have been dodging for the last couple of years when Islam Makhachev was calling out person after person, fighter after fighter, and it seemed like no one wanted to step up and take this fight. But is this the toughest matchup for both of these dudes so far? Or do you think Dan has fought better competition, or has Islam Makhachev had a better matchup than Dan Hooker?
I think it is the toughest fight for both guys. And if Islam can't get this fight to the ground, it becomes very difficult for him to just stand with Dan Hooker. There's only one guy that's beaten Islam Makhachev, and that was Adriano Martins. Way back in the day, he kicked him in the head with a head kick. It was in Houston. Islam and I think, might have fought on the same card. It does not happen to Islam.
Right.
Martins did it when he was able to stay standing. He wasn't able to take him down as effectively as he needed to. With Dan Hooker, Hooker presents a lot of problems for anyone when you're forced to just stand with him.
Right.
But if Makhachev can get the fight to the ground, I'm telling you, man, and I've said this before, the grappling, the power, his ability to go find submissions and really just wear you down is second to none. But when you ask me a question of whether or not he's the toughest guy that he's ever stood across from in regards to name recognition, skill, absolutely. Because he's not as one-dimensional as some of the other guys that Islam has been in there with. He's had the strikers. The last guy was just a grappler.
Right.
And we saw the fight against Hakparas that Hooker has the ability to do it all. We saw him mix in takedowns. We saw him defend takedowns. We saw him strike. We saw him do everything. So, yes, absolutely toughest fight Islam's had, toughest fight that Dan Hooker's ever had. Luke Rockhold's calling me for some reason. I have no idea what Luke's calling. You know, Luke was all mad yesterday because Kevin Holland said something about Luke coming back. So Luke's been on my line. Like, Rocco's been on my line now for days. He FaceTimes, too. Hey, know you're lovely. Hey, you know you're lovely when all you want to do is FaceTime, right? You want to show your face.
I don't even
just text.
Well, here's the thing. I just noticed he's FaceTiming you and 2 others. So that must be a group text. Ain't no telling what's on that group text when yeah, you see it.
Kidding me?
Yeah, it's like
wait, that was more than just.
It's like 5 of y'all, DC.
Oh, so he must be trying to text me and Duran. No, it's just me.
DC.
It's just me and Rocco.
DC. Also this. So here's another question. Here's another question. Now that you're so famous and you want to show people that you do have one UFC or fight friend other than Khabib Nurmagomedov or Islam Makhachev, I get it. Right now you're trying to say, oh, look at me. They're not my only 2 favorites. This fight, I think, is exciting for everybody because you do see the difference in the stylistic matchup, but you also watch Dan Hooker dominate in his last outing. And so it's not like he's coming off of a bad performance going into a fight where everyone expects him to lose. And with it being so close, now he doesn't maybe have to cut weight. He doesn't have to go through such a hard training camp to prepare for this fight. But speaking of someone who maybe didn't do their training camp in the right way or someone who didn't necessarily cut weight in the right way was Aspen Ladd. We watched her miss weight, and Miesha Tate wasn't at all excited or supportive of what Aspen Ladd did. What do you think about this, DC?
Well, Miesha goes, hey, it's one thing to miss weight. It's another thing to try and cheat the scale and use every excuse in the book to not weigh in properly. Everyone saw you cheat and still came in a pound over. I bet you were every bit of 139 pounds. Now, this is what Miesha's trying to allude to, RC.
Please tell me. Like, inform me, bro.
There is a curtain, my brother.
Okay.
That if you play it correctly, you can manipulate the scale.
Okay.
Because it does not take much in order to take weight off.
Okay.
If you have something to kind of touch or bury. So Aspen Ladd, what I'm hearing, in the back, wasn't willing to step on the check scale.
Okay.
She wanted to only check on the official scale. If she checked on the check scale and it said 139 because there is no curtain to touch, then everybody knows when she goes up there, she weighs 135, it's a problem. Her hands are up. But as she's shaking, moving, that scale's just bouncing, right? So then the hands go down. Miesha seems to know something more. See how her hands are under the curtain here? I think that's what Miesha's alluding to. Miesha's alluding to her hands being under the curtain and messing with the weight. That's my guess. I don't know where Miesha's getting this information, but she said it. She said she didn't get on the check scale. So I think she knows more than we do. And she's saying that Aspen cheated knowingly, knowing that she was overweight. 136 was the weight. She said she was every bit of 139. But if you get your hand on that thing, we saw a couple guys do it. I did it with the towel. I mean, that's what people say or think. I did it with the towel. I disagree. Kelvin Gastelum did it one time with that curtain thing. He pushed his fingers up against the curtain. The weight came off. It takes very little, Ryan. I've got little wrestlers that have times they said that I said, how do you make weight? He was heavy. somebody went behind him and maybe lifted him up on his butt, like just kind of picked him up a little bit. It doesn't take much to cheat those scales. And I think Misha's saying that Aspen Ladd cheated the scale.
Well, DC, I don't know much about weighing in because as a slender man myself, I've never had to like take off weight, but I've definitely had to fake some weight, put some weights in my pocket, and do some things for some check-ins on Thursday in Pittsburgh. But a lot of times we see people come in overweight and they accept whatever punishment or whatever fine it is, and you see the fight continue, or you see the fight the next day. Oh. Why is it that this fight didn't happen? Why did Macy not take this fight or accept this fight?
That's crazy. So Ryan, here's the thing, and this is why the sport of mixed martial arts is beautiful. Because if you and I have a problem, RC, when we hit the scale, if you're a pound heavy and we got issues, I'm gonna say, hey, I'm taking the fight and some of your money.
Right.
Because not only do I get to fight you still, I get some of your money. I get 20% of your purse. Or 30 if you're as heavy as Misha's saying. 1 pound, Macy could have fought her. Macy could have taken some of her money. The problem is, the backstory is, Macy Chasson had a lingering injury going into their last fight. Okay. And they pulled the fight midweek. So Aspen was mad. She spoke about her a little bit in the build to the fight. So Macy, and I quote, said, F that B in regards to fighting Aspen Ladd on last weekend. It's bad. But to me, I'm like, hey, if you hate each other so much, go fight.
Right.
Go fight.
It's like the one place in the world where if I dislike you, I get to punch you in your face and I don't go to jail. You know what I mean? It's like this is what we're paid to do, and I get some of your cash. I'm absolutely taking that. But people have, their own reasoning behind things, and I always wonder how that weight comes into play. If it's 1 pound over, if it's 2 pound over, or how heavy they balloon up to on fight night. How much does that distort, the opportunity to win a fight?
So I think it was always the last 5 to 3 pounds that you really struggled with. 3 to 5 pounds, you really struggled. And Aspen has struggled making the weight before, right? This isn't the first time that she's missed weight. She's had issues with the weight. But Ryan, it's like the last few pounds that really hurt. And when they hurt, you really deplete yourself. So when you get that last bit of weight off, you can't eat, you can't drink. It takes a little longer for you to recover. But when somebody quits or when somebody stops, when it gets really hard, now they just start to recover from when they felt just okay. So instead of having to sit in that sauna for another 2 hours, another hour to get off that last 30, Ryan, you just say, you know what, I'm done. To get off that last 3 pounds, I'm done. I don't need to suffer that much. So you just recover much faster.
So is it time for her to move up, DC? Like, when do you know you can't make that weight anymore?
So I don't want this to feel like we're kind of crapping on Aspen Ladd, RC.
I just want answers. Like, this is interesting to me.
No, for real. But I get it. I don't want to feel like I'm crapping on Aspen Ladd because she's a nice gal. But put Ryan on the split screen as I tell you this. Ryan, the champion at 135 is who?
Champion at 135 is Nunes.
Yes. The champion at 145 is who?
Nunes.
So why not just go up? On the path to the championship. I mean, I don't understand.
It's the same person is what you're saying.
It's the same exact person without having to cut weight. Why wouldn't you just go up? Hey, Ryan, there's no weight class rankings. There's nobody in the weight class. If she goes up as the number 3 ranked bantamweight in the world, she making a title fight right away. So I don't understand why she keeps killing herself to make the weight when she could just go up and fight the same person.
Well, maybe she feels like the people from 2 to 10 are easier for her to fight in 135 than 145.
There is no 2 to 10. There's no 2 to 10, Ryan. There's no 2 to 10. We don't have rankings. It's just Amanda. The girl she fought in the last time, the girl from Australia, I can't remember her name, tall girl.
Yep.
Megan Anderson is out of the UFC. The girl she fought before, Felicia Spencer, she hasn't fought. I don't think she lost. She might be out of the UFC. There are no rankings. You literally just go up a weight class.
Hey, you get a fight for the belt.
I'm going up, son. I'm Well,
DC, speaking of weight classes, and obviously weight classes you know a lot about, we had a light heavyweight bout this weekend, and it's Johnny Walker, 6'6", Mohawk, ready to come throw them things. And then we get Thiago Santos, who's one of the more explosive fighters we've ever seen in that weight class. I mean, a dude that took John Jones to the brink on a bum knee. And so I'm actually sitting in UCLA's parking lot, watching on my phone, waiting to go in and watch ASU, UCLA, and I'm like, I'm telling my wife, I'm telling my daughter in the back, oh, this is gonna be explosive, babe. We ain't gotta wait much longer because once this fight starts, it's over. And then it was like, bump, bump, bump. Why was this fight such a dud?
Bruh, I don't know. And you know what's crazy? It's like, how do fights like that happen? Mm-hmm. Now, when I start to dig into that, RC, you have a fight that's guaranteed to deliver, and then it turns into just an absolute stinker. Now, this fight wasn't as bad as some of the ones we've seen. We've seen some bad ones. We've seen Thiago Santos involved in bad ones. Him and Alexander Rakic was a bad fight. It was a bad fight. And somebody said something about Alexander Rakic the other day, and I was like, man, it was a bad fight. I call it as I see it. Saturday night was a bad fight. I don't understand how Johnny Walker felt so confident that he had won when nothing was happening. But I think the all-time bad fights, like, I mean, how in the world could, look at the strikes. 3 in round 1, 11-11, 10-9. Then you got 9, 10, 11, 8. How in the world do these two dudes land 19, 29, 40, 48 strikes to 14, 25, 34, 44 to 48 strikes over 5 rounds? How in the world do these two dudes land 45 to 48 strikes? Worst fight of all time still, though. Francis Ngannou against Derek Lewis. I don't even know how that happened. Hey, how'd that happen?
From build up to letdown was that fight. I'm talking about the excitement I had going into it and the disappointment I had leaving it were on 2 totally different ends of the spectrum of high. I was so ticked off. But when you look at this division now, right, you look at both of these guys and no statement was made this week. And I think sometimes when you have 2 explosive strikers, you can get this. You can kind of get a stalemate of what you've seen. But now you have Jan Blachowicz is going to fight Glover Teixeira. Who is next in line to get a shot at the light heavyweight crown after what we saw this weekend between Johnny Walker and Thiago Santos?
You know, I think you're on the short list, right? You got Yuri Prochazka and you got Alexander Rakic. Those are the only 2 that are in a position where they could challenge right now. Anthony Smith has won fights in a row now, but he still has some work to do. He's trying to get the Rakic fight with the understanding that if he beats Rakic, he probably can get another championship fight as he fought Jones a while back. New champion means that you have new opportunity. But I'm thinking Prochazka, who just dominates dudes. I mean, the way Prochazka has done these dudes to this point has truly been crazy because he's out there with that weird haircut.
He's explosive,
he's going crazy.
Yeah.
He's explosive. Yeah. He's just throwing everything. He's like a samurai out there. And he's mowing through cats that are supposed to be good. I think for the fun fight, it would be Prochazka.
Right.
But I would like to see Prochazka fight against Rakic to see who would get a championship fight against Glover Teixeira and Jan Blachowicz. But could you imagine if Glover wins a belt? 43 years old, Ryan, becoming the UFC champion? I mean, you would not think in modern MMA, like today's mixed martial arts, that's even possible. But
you know what though? What's crazy is I think we talked about Charles Oliveira earlier. Now you have Jan Blachowicz in the light heavyweights. It's starting to be that in some of these divisions there isn't necessarily a star. You know, like I don't look at Jan and say to myself, he's a star. Not that he's not a great fighter, not that he's not a championship level fighter, but it isn't the things we feel when we think about like Israel Adesanya, or you think about the same place that Alexander Volkanovski is now. And so I think that it's actually reinvigorated the division to me because people do feel like they have a chance. Anthony Smith feels like he can fight his way back into contention. We could see a guy like Prochazka get an opportunity, or if you get the fight with Rakic and one of those guys win. And so to me, that is getting more and more exciting in that division. But we need someone to step up and say that it's my division. Every time I fight, it's going to be exciting. I'm going to step in there and I'm going to make sure that technically I do exactly what I have to do, and also physically I do what I have to do. And I think the last two fights, or the last few fights where we've seen, a Jan Blachowicz take out a Reyes, we've seen a Jan Blachowicz understand that he needs to go to the ground with Israel Adesanya. He's starting to get to that point. And I think this fight with Glover Teixeira is going to be huge to keep him ascending into what could be superstardom in the division.
Absolutely. And you know what? Jan has done a tremendous job of reinventing himself and truly making a statement in a division that people didn't. Dude, I'm telling you, man, when I was the champ, I didn't even know Jan Blachowicz was in the weight class, son. I didn't even know we fought in the same weight. And this dude is now the champion of the world. So you know how quickly things can turn. Now, as we spin forward to this weekend, we talk about a person that things have turned for quickly. Mackenzie Dern. Mackenzie Dern started in the UFC, was fighting great, lost the fight. People were ready to write her off. But now she's submitting everybody, and now she finds herself tied for fourth with Yao Shannon, and she's fighting Marina Rodriguez, or Rodriguez, because in Brazilian they say H for R's, for Marina Rodriguez this weekend at the Apex. When you look at this fight, and you look at Rodriguez with her fantastic striking, and you look at Mackenzie Dern with her unbelievable grappling, it's one of those fights where it feels, honestly, for the most part, like specialists.
Right.
Even though Rodriguez is a very good grappler in her own right, and Mackenzie is willing to stand and strike, it would not benefit her to stay standing for too long, and it would not benefit Rodriguez to be on the ground for too long. So what's the excitement level for the strawweights as they go into the octagon this weekend?
Well, I mean, the excitement level is who stylistically can make the other person fight their fight. Right. And I think that's always what I pay attention to, like who can stay up. Like I think back to Anderson Silva, Damian Maia. Damian Maia is laying on the ground. Anderson Silva was walking away and walking around because he didn't want to be a part of that fight. And Damian Maia didn't want to be a part of a fight that stayed on his feet. And I remember Dana White being ticked off because he felt like Anderson Silva through a few fights wasn't exciting. But why would he go to the ground with Damian Maia when you know that's exactly what he wants to do? And so both of these women are going to have to step into the octagon and figure out how to draw the other person into my fight. How do I get an opportunity to excel at what I do well? And I think that's part of the matchmaking of the UFC, but it's also part of the training camp. It's part of the understanding of getting people to come to me. Like I understood that if I'm guarding Randy Moss, I need to make sure I take away the deep ball and make him play my game, which is physicality. He also understood he wanted to get me one-on-one in space. And I think that's
I like that.
Yeah, listen.
I like that, RC. You gave him that physical? You gave him that physical, RC?
Hey.
You got physical with Moss?
And I also called Troy and Ike over so we could double team him on the deep balls. See, ain't no double teaming in the octagon, bro. It's just like, you and him.
That must have been crazy looking at Randy Moss across the line of like, how I'm gonna stop this dude?
Well, you know what happened, DC? I would just understand that some people leave the hospital with more, and Randy Moss left the hospital with a little more speed than RC had. So we made sure we made it ugly and physical. But with Mackenzie Dern, we know that she's a submission specialist. We know that if she gets this to the ground, this could be over. But there's also some other people that have fought in the UFC, DC, who are submission specialists, who are the people that we look at and say, you know what? You don't want to go to the ground with this person because the fight could be over quickly. So, as usual, we take it back to the last rankings we had, the BMF draft, right? This isn't a draft. BMF draft, I absolutely blow you out. Your team isn't even close, right? Like you kept talking and you were like, okay, ain't no way that DC's team beats RC teams. You get to the end and you pick the whole Diaz Mafia because I'm beating you so badly. You remember that? You not remember that?
I do. RC, but wait a minute. Now I'm gonna ask you something. To this point, you've been very cordial in letting me go first. Now, are you going first this time? Are you going first? This was
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So here's what happened. So Corporate Jake is texting me and he's getting my list. And he's kind of going through it. And I was like, well, okay, so how does it work? Is it a draft? He's like, no, it's not a draft. You're going to put the list up. And he says that you go first. And I immediately was like, come on, bro. Thanks a lot. Because I know what's going to happen is you're going to do your list, right? And then we're going to have some of the same names. And everybody's going to be like, oh, RC's a casual. He just took DC's list. And hell nah, I ain't going for it. Right?
Okay, let's go. Then let me hear it.
So I'm going to give you my list. Brother. So I'm going to start from the bottom, right? Can I start from the bottom, Corp and Jake? Or do I need to start from the top?
You can start from the bottom.
Starting from the bottom at number 5, I'm going Frank Mir. Right? The old sleepy name. Somebody you ain't think about, right? You got to think about the submission on Nog. That was at, 140? I think Dana White said it was like the greatest submission of all time.
Wait. You're dropping events now? Now you're dropping events.
That was the event it was. Just because you can't remember. Now, at number 4, people going to sleep on this one, DC, because I know you're going to sleep on this one, and don't try to steal it for your list. Ronda Rousey. At her prime, that armbar was the scariest submission in the sport. Nobody wanted to go to the ground with Ronda, and you know it. Ronda just forgot and started trying to fight everybody on their feet, and that's when we got Holly Holm and Amanda Nunes. Then at number 3, Damian Maia. I brought him up earlier. Damian Maia, you already knew what type of ground game he had the jiu-jitsu. Even Anderson Silva, who was actually good on the ground, knew better than to go to the ground with him. At number 2, Charles Oliveira. I think he has 14 submissions. I think he's the leader in the UFC in submission wins, right? And at number 1, gotta go with my guy Gracie, because you know and I know he's the whole reason for this. He was submitting people that was like 250 back in the day before UFC had any sense, before Dana White was bald-headed and swole and fixed his teeth. He was the man that started it all. Everybody understood that if you went in there against Gracie, you had trouble. My list is for sure better than your list. It's not even going to be close, because you're going to start with Khabib at number 1, and you're going to finish with Islam Makhachev at number 5. We already know.
Ryan, hey.
Thank you.
You know the slow clap? You know that slow clap? Hey, that slow clap whenever you at the opera, or when you're doing some stuff that you never thought you would do in your life, you know, what that money has allowed for you to do, going to plays and stuff, that slow clap, I give you one. But let me give you my list. At number 5, I have a tie, Ryan. I have a tie.
How do you?
Of course I have a tie. Right, of course. Ryan, I have a tie at number 5. I'm going Frank Mir and Big Nog. Big Nog also had a ton of submissions in the octagon, and he was good. At number 4, Mackenzie Dern. Mackenzie Dern has the only leg lock submission in UFC female fighting history. She has 4 submissions, tied for the most in the weight class's history, maybe the most in the history of the weight class. At number 3, I'm going for Fabricio Verdun.
Oh, good one.
He submitted Cain Velasquez in a UFC championship fight. Not only that, though, you can't forget about the submission of Fedor Emelianenko and Strikeforce and all those other places. At number 2, I got Ronda Rousey, because who was not only submitting everybody with the same move, but also timing it. Do you remember when she used to walk out there with a timer? Her coach would walk out there with a stopwatch, and she would try to beat the time from the fight before. And I'll never forget the first title fight she had against Liz Carmouche in Anaheim. And it was crazy. For her to be fighting in Southern California, it was just game-changing. And for Ronda to win in the way that she did was
DC, was it Carmouche or Misha Tate that got her back, that got Ronda's back early in the fight?
No, it was Liz. Liz got her back. Carmouche got her back.
Yeah,
and then she came back and she hit her with the armbar. And last, I got to agree with you, Royce Gracie. I mean, he's the king of submission. So that's my list.
So basically,
I forgot Charles Oliveira. And I think that's what's going to lose it for me. I'm actually going to admit that you got me, because I forgot the guy with the most submissions in UFC history, Charles Do Bronx Oliveira. And the moment you said it, you know when you got like that big swallow? I had that big swallow, and it just really, I was like, God dang it, he got me.
You know who used to do this? Kobe Bean Bryant. That's what I feel like right now.
Kobe
also,
Bean.
DC, I'm actually shocked. Did you call Khabib before this and say, listen, I really want to put you at number 1 on this list, You know you're my favorite fighter of all time. I truly don't believe any of these people are better than you, but RC's giving me a lot of crap all the time about loving you more than I love myself, and so I can't really put you on this list. Like, did you text him? Like, do they text in Dagestan? Like, I don't know.
No, I just they text, yeah, but
okay.
I never thought about it for this list. He dominated, he submitted people, but we're talking about the greatest submission artist in the history of the game, and I didn't have him up there. In terms of grappling dominance, yes, but in terms of straight submissions, I can't easily say that he would have been on the list. But I honestly, hey, you got it, dog. You got it. Now I have to kind of, take a deep breath. I need to relax, right? And how do I relax? I relax with something nice and cool. Our good friends at Modelo. You know what makes Modelo special? It's brewed for those with the fighting spirit, and you wouldn't expect anything less from the official beer of the UFC. Modelo was the underdog. It came from humble beginnings, and it never gave up. It's brewed from premium hops to create a crisp Pilsner-style lager, which set the standard for authentic Mexican beer. So the next time you're tuning into a UFC fight card, you better make sure that you've got the beer that's always in your corner. Modelo. It's brewed for those with the fighting spirit. You got to drink responsibly. Beer imported by Crown Imports, Chicago, Illinois. Now, Ryan, not only is Mackenzie Dern fighting Marina Rodriguez, my boy Deron Wynn also going to be making his return to the octagon, fighting against a very tough Phil Hawes. Big fight for Deron. Big fight card this weekend. I cannot wait to watch it from the comforts of my home. I've been working so much. Deron, you know what time it is. We've arrived at that time. We've arrived at that time of the show. It's time to tap in or tap out. And Corporate Jake, join us, my friend.
Jorge Masvidal says that he is moving on from a potential Leon Edwards bout. RC, tap in or tap out on Masvidal making this stand?
I tap in on it because I think at some point you got to call it quits. At some point you got to say, you know what, this dude doesn't necessarily want to fight me, and I need to start at least behaving like it was my decision to move on. Obviously, Leon feels that he's too high in the rankings to fight a guy like Jorge Masvidal. He believes that he deserves the opportunity to face Kamaru Usman for the belt, and fighting Jorge Masvidal would be beneath him. And so if he's going to feel this way, if he's going to behave this way, you can't keep, after a while, calling a dude out constantly ends up becoming begging. And if you're Jorge Masvidal, if you're Street Jesus, you never want it to be that you're begging for a fight or you're looking to someone else to give you relevance in the weight class.
RC, I'm tapping out. Because how in the world can you move on from somebody when they begged for you for a year? Like Leon Edwards, when that two-piece in a biscuit thing that he did,
right,
that's when that fight was at the heart of its rivalry.
Right.
But at that time, he was the man. He was fighting for the belt, so he didn't want to look at Leon. Why in the world should Leon Edwards now want to look back to you guys? And I'm saying you guys because Gilbert Burns, too. Gilbert Burns is guilty of this. They did not want to talk about Leon Edwards at all whenever they were the ones on the short list for a championship fight.
Right.
Now Leon is the guy in that position, and they want to call him out. No, Leon, Rocky, get the title shot that you so justly deserve. Don't waste your time. I'm tapping out, Ryan. Corporate Jake.
Sean O'Malley has his next fight booked, but not against anyone he's been calling out in the top 10. So, DC, tap in or out, O'Malley fighting another non-big name fighter.
You know what? I got to tap in because he's fighting a ranked fighter for the first time. When you look at Hyolin Paiva, he's a guy that's ranked. Not top 10, but he's like right around 14, 15. So now O'Malley's finally fighting a ranked guy, and when he wins, if he wins, he'll be in the rankings. So now he'll have no choice but to start the fight up towards the top 10 of the division.
Yeah, I mean, I think Sean O'Malley, I'm going to tap in on this because Sean O'Malley was kind of calling for some names that he didn't necessarily deserve by the wins he already had in the UFC. Paiva is coming off of a very exciting fight, of a fight that he was rocked in, and he had to come back and show some way to fight through adversity and show some toughness. And so now you have a guy in Sean O'Malley whose stardom probably outweighs his record. or his stardom probably outweighs his opponents. And so now to get him in a fight against a ranked opponent, even though it's not top 10, it at least says now we are ascending in our choice of opponent. We are now getting to a point to where we're going to start fighting some dudes who could put us in real danger. And so I'm excited about this. I'm excited about this matchup, and I'm definitely tapping in. I'll be tuned in to see Sean O'Malley take to the octagon his next fight.
Yeah, that's a good fight for him. Corporate Jake, hit us with another one.
So on Sunday, we saw the Ravens go against the unwritten rules of football by attempting to keep a streak alive rather than take a knee at the end of the game. RC, tap in or tap out on abiding by unwritten rules in sports?
I tap out on that. I absolutely tap out on unwritten rules. Unwritten rules are stupid, right? Like, like baseball, they don't want you to bat flip. Well, why in the hell am I not going to flip this bat when you just pitched this ball 100 miles an hour and I hit it 400 feet? I should be able to flip the bat. I should be able to back flip if I want to back flip, do all that stuff, right? Like the stupid taunting rule, right? If I make a play on you, last night, Darren Waller on Monday Night Football, he spikes the ball and that's taunting? No, you should have covered him. And so for me, if John Harbaugh, when a game is already won, is going to run former MVP and franchise quarterback Lamar Jackson on a quarterback sweep, on a called quarterback run, guess what? I'm getting in a sprinter stance, and I'm trying to run through everybody and hit Lamar Jackson in his face mask. If you want people to stop doing things that you feel like are part of the unwritten rules of a sport, tell you what you do, bust them in their face. I bet they stop then. So for me, nah, you ain't got to abide by the rules, and neither do I. If you want to run him late in the game, I could try to kill him late in the game. So nope, I'm tapping out on this.
Hey, RC, I'm tapping out. RC, I'm actually tapping out too. Because if we play video games, I'm still trying to score.
Yeah.
And if I almost got a triple-double in the NBA and all I got to do is get a rebound, I'm hoping that my teammate lets me get that rebound. If I don't get the trash talk after fighting because it's supposed to be all kumbaya after the match, I'm talking trash. I don't like unwritten rules because I feel like they're in place to protect somebody's feelings. The only way to keep your feelings protected is by ensuring that nobody has the opportunity to hurt them.
Yep.
So I'm tapping out on unwritten rules in sports. And Coach Harbaugh, keep your streak alive. Because now I think they're at 100 games or something like that where they've had 100 yards rushing every single time. So
it's
I'm
a record.
tapping out.
Yeah, like they tied the record. So we're talking about tapping out, right? Because obviously that's a part of your sport. That's a part of the sport you are a future Hall of Famer in. Are there any unwritten rules in MMA? Because it seems like it would be hard to have rules in a sport that's a combat sport where it's mano-a-mano, two individuals in the octagon.
You're not supposed to hit a guy whenever they go to bump. You know how they all go to bump before the fight starts? Like You're not supposed to hit a guy. We've seen that a few times. You're not supposed to talk trash. You don't really talk trash after. Even if you got beef, everybody want to see everybody come together and hug. Like,
right.
No, I'm not into all those. Like, those are probably the unwritten rules. There are some things. Hey, what happens in the gym stays in the gym. That's one that you kind of try to abide by for sure.
Right.
You don't want to bring those gym stories out into the world.
So you mean like if a dude gets put to sleep sparring or something like that?
Yeah, you don't want to. Yeah, you don't want to start talking about knocking somebody out in practice. That's why T.J. Dillashaw and Cody Garbrandt got so nasty, because Cody kept talking about him knocking T.J. out. I think they might have even released the footage of T.J. getting knocked out in practice. You know, those are some of the unwritten rules in mixed martial arts.
So it was like that series you're about to be in, Warrior, where they released the footage of the gym when my man was fighting for $200 and he knocked dude out, and that's how he got to be a part of the whole Kumite or whatever it was. I mean, that's Bloodsport, which is a great movie too. You know what I mean?
Bloodsport was a great movie, yes.
So Corporate Jake, tee us up one more time, man.
Speaking of combat sports, a big-time trilogy takes place Saturday night between Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. DC, you know a thing or two about trilogies. Tap in or tap out on this third fight going differently than the second?
No, I don't think it's tapping out. I don't think it's going differently. I wish Deontay Wilder would have taken a fight in the meantime. Because Tyson Fury, the first fight, Tyson Fury was putting it on him. And then Deontay dropped him late in order to make it a draw. The second fight, Tyson literally just put it on him the whole time. So if I'm a fan of Deontay Wilder, I mean, as I am, I'm tapping out. Deontay and I were on the Olympic team together. I'm tapping out of that fight. I wish he would have did something different. I don't believe it's going to be much different. I saw Tyson Fury in an interview yesterday, and he seems so focused. He seems so locked in, and he really feels like he wants to kill Deontay Wilder. And he's a big guy, way too heavy for Wilder. And I envision the fight's going to look very, very similar to the second fight.
I'm tapping out, DC, and I'm tapping out sadly. Because I enjoy watching Deontay Wilder fight. I enjoy watching somebody who I don't necessarily think has the greatest of boxing skill. He doesn't necessarily have the traditional heavyweight body, but when he puts the gloves on someone, they fall. And you're exactly right about the first fight. Tyson Fury is, in the words of Lennox Lewis, a pugilist specialist. Tyson Fury understands the game of boxing. He understands how to hit and not get hit. And that was Deontay Wilder's one opportunity. When he dropped Tyson late in that fight, and then Tyson got up like the Undertaker.
How did he get up?
That was it.
How did he get up?
You know,
like, how did he get up? Like, how did he get up from that?
He was just supposed to, bro. He was just supposed to. And so you think about the last fight and the way it went. Deontay Wilder saying his walk-in outfit was too heavy and his legs were shot. I think if I were hearing that Deontay Wilder was doing something way different than he's ever done, if he was training differently, if he was working with different boxing and defensive specialists, I think I'd feel differently about this fight. But keeping the same thing, and the main thing, you have to go with Tyson Fury with another win over Deontay Wilder.
Yeah, you got to, man. And it, like you said, it's sad because Deontay never really was the technical boxer.
Yes.
But you know that with the power that he possessed, he could put anybody out. So it's going to be a great fight weekend. And I think this is the biggest boxing fight that you could have right now. You watch that live on pay-per-view, ESPNplus.com/pay-per-view. Wilder and Fury for the third time. The trilogy gets completed on this weekend. Biggest fight in boxing, because Anthony Joshua completely blew it 2 weeks ago. So this is the biggest fight that we get. The heavyweight championship of the world, the baddest man on the planet, gets decided this weekend. Also, tune in to watch Marina Rodriguez take on Mackenzie Dern to see who, Ryan, may be the next to challenge for the UFC Strawweight Championship. Now, for the first time in the show's history, RC, I openly say, my friend, you won the list.
First off, the only reason I never win any other time is because Jake makes some draft and you take my people and they always let you go first. And so right now, I want to thank my mom for giving me Google and allowing me to be able to go back and look through and find all these great fighters. I want to thank DC, Corporate
right
Jake,
here,
and Glenn for the opportunity. This really means a lot to me. I'm going to have the DC and RC list belt. I'm going to get it made this week. I'll have it on the show next week.
Hey, man, you're supposed to win with class. I mean, with that get-up that you're wearing right now, you look very sophisticated.
I'm not.
You look sophisticated, but you are not acting like that.
Bro, I'm from the West Bank. I'm from the West Bank of New Orleans. Nobody's ever considered that class.
Hey, you need to learn to win and act like you've been here before, man. It's like a defensive player scoring a touchdown.
Hey,
y'all dancing,
I
y'all
want to apologize to absolutely no one.
Oh, my God. Now you Conor McGregor. Hey, for Ryan Clark, I'm Daniel Cormier. Until next week, we'll see you guys next time. Peace.